Here you
Hey,
go. We're live. Hello, hello, hello to everyone watching. Good morning. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to either watch us live or catch the replay. My name's Alana. I go by Afro Butterfly, and I have two phenomenal gentlemen with me today. I have Mr. Stanford, Mr. Crypto Rich over here. Let me point in the correct direction. And I have Claude Curry with me below. These are some phenomenal gentlemen that I felt it was necessary to introduce you to. For most of you, you know I've been on a very interesting financial journey at this point in my life, and I've met so many amazing people along the way. So I wanted to have conversations that we have behind closed doors in front of you. I feel like that's the best way for y'all to get to know me again, and the best way for you to get to know some of my amazing friends. So thank you both, Sanford, Claude. Thank you for being here.
no problem. Thank you for having us. Definitely. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So today's topic of conversation is teaching the kids. I know that's a very broad umbrella topic, but when I had some conversations with y'all regarding crypto and financial literacy, I saw what y'all were doing and it just blew my mind. So I wanted to have this conversation today to touch on that. Stanford, if you don't mind, just telling the people a little bit about yourself and what made you want to do what you're doing right now.
Got you. So a little bit about me, born and raised Kansas City, Missouri. Missouri, not Kansas. We do get a little sensitive about that. We don't know Toto and them in Kansas. Anyway, uh, I grew up in a household, single mother, older
Mhm.
brother and a younger brother. So I was the middle child. And we definitely didn't have a great situation. My
Mhm.
mom did an amazing job, but I knew growing up that it had to be more. And the
Mhm.
biggest thing was that I knew that not only did it have to be more, but it had to be more in another place. Because in my space or in my town, most of the people stayed when they grew up. They stayed in the same place. So ended up joining the military. That's what got me out of Kansas City. Went to travel the world and ended up going to all of the interesting places in the world that we had wars at the time. So
Mhm.
definitely I'm a combat veteran, but even going through all those experiences, I knew there had to be more. And then I found out that, okay, when I met my first millionaire mentor, that the information that was needed to grow was actually already in books and also in mentors themselves. So the first book that he put me on was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read that book, and I'm gonna be honest, mine was so blown when it came to money and finances that I started looking at money in a different way, and instantly just applying a couple of the principles within the book, I started seeing real change in my life. So fast forward, now I had the mindset of finances and then end up in the space of finances. And that's how I ended up trading in Forex. And my biggest and favorite, of course, is cryptocurrencies. So me knowing that information and knowledge has no age, and also wisdom doesn't
Mhm.
either.
Mhm.
So my heart is always to be a change of generation because my family is known for alcoholics, drug addicts, and gamblers, and I
Mhm.
refuse to fall into that trap. But it was only that way because we lacked knowledge and information to be able to change that and to break that family curse, if you would. So I'm like, how do we change that? Okay, I know this now, and mind you, it took me all the way to get to my 30s to find this, right? And now I'm like, okay, how do we change that? So we started with children. I don't
Mhm.
even think there's a such thing as a youngest age to start talking to them about finances because they absorb so much at those ages. All the way, I think the youngest right now is 7 years old. My son started growing an interest and started learning at 10 years old, and now he can literally teach people how to trade, and he has his own crypto portfolios and uses his own money that he gets to invest himself. So that's how I ended up getting into this space, and I just love it every single day. I really do.
I think that's phenomenal. First off, thank you for your service and thank you for your service too, Claude. I know you're going to touch on that as well. But I really think it's phenomenal for people like yourselves to literally have lived an entirely different lifetime and then be able to reintegrate yourself into society and say, I need to learn a skill set and wind up in this sort of space. And that's so true about children. I really don't think there's too young of an age to start either because children's brains are so plastic. Like if you introduce languages to a child when they're in those single digit ages, they multilingual, pops up, pops off. So I'm sure you've been in a grocery store and you've seen little babies who can't even walk in the little cart and they got a tablet and they're manipulating that piece of technology and device like nobody's business. So you're definitely on to something with that. And Claude, if you don't mind, could you touch a bit on your experience in this space as well, and why you also decided to teach children this information?
Wow. Well, thank you again for having us. I truly do appreciate it. What really got me into this space, prior military vet as well. And I was stationed in Japan at the time, and something happened. That's when the government decided that they weren't going to pay us. What? Here we are. We signed our name on a dotted line. You know, a lot of our brothers and sisters in arms are overseas. They're in battles and they're getting shot at, getting bombed at, and the government said they're not going to pay them. So this is when I decided I need to do something different, not only for myself but for my family. And then I needed to instill something in them a little bit different. And I always wanted to trade. But, you know, when we talked about trading growing up, it was something that wasn't taught in schools. You know, just like we said earlier, when people hear and they think about trading, they think about the old man on the charts in front of the computers, or the old wealthy guy at the country home trading with his families. But they don't think about the average person. They don't think about the person that looks like you or myself, or maybe some individuals we know. So over there in Japan, we met our first millionaire mentor. And like my brother just said, he literally told us to read that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I convey this to anyone on this call. If you're listening to this and you have not read that book, go pick that book up. Not only read it for yourself, but give it to anyone that you're close to, that you know want to better them lives. And I employ every person on here to give that book to their children. Give it to your nieces and nephews, because you're literally going to read, and you're going to read the story from a young kid as he's explaining what's going on in his life and how he can literally grow his finances in that book. When I read that book and completely changed my mindset, I said, I have to get into this market. So we got into this market, we started trading. And then what happened for me was I started earning and learning and making more from a skill set that I started with when I read a book, because this skill set wasn't taught in schools. They didn't teach us how to do this in school. And then it flipped. It flipped. I got my brother here, and we got with his son, and his son started picking up on this. His son was just picking up. He was gravitating to the numbers. His son is highly intelligent, and the way he was able to break down the charts, because it was like a video game for him. Because he didn't understand about making mistakes doing this, or having the assumption of previous dollar amount when it came to trade. All he knew was that either he won a trade or he took a lesson. And what was so important was that he wanted to know why he lost. He wasn't mad that he lost. He wanted to know why he lost. And then what happened was he started developing his skill set, where now he literally can get into these markets. He can look at a chart. He can mark up a chart. And the beautiful thing about this was that he started this at the age of 10. And here I am, and I'm looking at my brother right here. We're like, bro, you see this? We're like, absolutely. So he's like, yo. So what happened was there's a young lady out here in Riverdale, out here in Georgia, and she has a community center where her dynamics of this youth life center is different. After school programs, they're teaching fine arts, they're teaching production, they're teaching so many different things that the average community center doesn't have. And we all came together and was like, let's bring in financial literacy. And the reason this was because we all knew that financial literacy wasn't taught in school. So we got a program together. We got with the students. I'll let my brother talk on that a little bit more. But we started getting with these students and these kids. I believe the youngest one that we had was 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
7. And just to see the faces on these children when they were able to come in and learn this skill set. And not only did we teach them how to trade in the market, they started getting professional lessons as well. Public speaking. We had them getting up in front of everyone, introducing themselves, building their confidence up, because we all know that one of the greatest fears in the world is public speaking. We even have adults to this day who don't want to get in front of a crowd and speak.
That's
or
fact.
even say their name. But here we are with these young children. They're introducing themselves. They're sharing their names. They're telling us their backgrounds, and yet they're teaching each other how to get into the market and trade, how to set these charts up. And what got me is when we heard the youth say, "Hey, I'm gonna go back home and I'm gonna tell my mom about this. Hey, I can help my mom and my dad afford this." Hey, the biggest thing that hit me is when we had a mother who actually came in.
Mm.
She's watching us, and I got a video. I can show you the video. It was actually recorded, and she said she was blown away by what her daughter was learning. And you know what the words out of her mouth were? She said,
Mm.
"This is going to pay for my child to go to private school."
Wow.
That right there is what got me, and then it's just been up from there. It really has been.
I think that's so beautiful in general because to be able to put confidence in the children, because there's been so many different studies and reports out there that children's confidence is broken somewhere between the age of 8 and 10 when they get out into the real world, from people telling them no all the time, from being chastised when they fail, like if they break something in the house they get scolded, like, so for you to be able to introduce a skill set or an opportunity for them to grow their confidence, and then something that they can teach their parents, so that's connecting families, and oh my goodness, that's amazing. So yet Stanford, I would love to hear you touch on the program that you have. Like, what, tell me, walk me through the process of if a young child wants to start learning this information, like what happens when they approach you.
Absolutely. So what happens is, if the parent or even if the child has an interest in the space that we're in, once we're in there, what we do is we do pretty much 8 kids at a time, and we'll have like 45-minute segments. And depending on the kid, sometimes that may either be too long or not. But the thing is, we make it fun because, like we said, it's like a game to them. And since they don't necessarily have that fear of loss and things like that, and those worries and doubts and concerns that adults that we have programmed in us, they get into here and they start learning very fast, and they're successful very fast
Mm.
into the space. But with this, it's truly a blessing to be able to see the kids when they come in and actually be able to use skills. I think the most important thing that they're learning, because money in the space is easy. I mean, if you look at the physical sense, we click buttons, we make money.
Facts.
The piece that is the most important is how children are able to develop critical thinking. Like my
Mm.
brother just said, they came, they did that, they made the money. I was like, wait a second, because we always got the question. So if this was a real account, I could actually withdraw this and that'd be real money. And we're like, yes, because you're on the real market. You're just using a demo account, but you're on the real market. So that same way you made that $250 is the same way you will make it on a real account. So then when they started thinking about problems that they have at home
Mm.
and how this can be a solution, boom. Because if you just think about how wealth is built in the world,
Yeah.
every piece of wealth that is built and the way you gain wealth is find a problem and provide a solution.
Hmm.
Critical thinking, solve a problem. Just think about everything you spend your money on right now. The person you gave your money to, they gave you something to solve a problem that you have, or that
That's
you think you have.
true.
One of the two. So if you get good at seeing problems and seeing them as opportunities to provide a solution, you
Hmm.
never have to worry about money in your life, period, or resources in your life, period. And that's something that we are instilling in them at such a young age, because even as adults, we struggle with this as adults. We always see the problem, but we're not looking for a solution. We're just looking for somebody else to give us the solution.
That's true. I know that that's something that I'm still working on. So I'm
Absolutely.
grateful for you touching on that.
Right.
That's something, if we don't learn that skill set as children, we have to relearn it as adults or learn it
Exactly.
for the first time as adults.
And think of
Yeah.
how much easier it is for them to learn it now and carry it over into adulthood. Because even if they don't, quote unquote, start using it now through middle school, high school, and things like that, that seed is still planted, and they're
Mm.
still going to look at problems as opportunities. And the cool thing about that is when they go to their parents and start talking to them, the moment an adult sees a child do something,
Mm.
they automatically are more susceptible to saying, "Okay, let me check this out." Because when an adult goes to an adult and like, "Hey, this changed my life, this and that," unfortunately, we always think about, oh, it's because you came from a rich family. It's because you're smart. It's because you're young. It's because you're more experienced. It's because you're. We always think of those self-limiting beliefs to count ourselves out instead of thinking of those things to include ourselves. But when you hear from a child, what excuse can you give yourself? You
Ooh,
can't. It,
out of
it,
the
hit,
mouth of babes, out of the
it hits
mouth
you
of
straight in the
babes.
heart. It hit you straight in the heart, like ooh. So it's so funny when I'm sitting there looking at my son talk to somebody, about trading, and they're asking them questions about crypto or trading and this and that, and they're just receiving everything instantly. The guard is down from a child instantly,
Right.
and that's how this skill set with children is so powerful because it's not just for them and just for them. They can impact more people than adults
This is true.
faster,
Yeah.
especially their own household, if received. And then of course we can come in, then it gives the parent the confidence to come and actually speak to us as an adult to give them, the real nitty gritty of the things that we don't actually talk to the kids about.
Are you finding that the friends of the children are like telling their friends, and now you're having like a whole community come in? Is that?
Yes. And you know what, it's funny too, because we started doing this before the whole metaverse buzz.
Mm,
The metaverse buzz just makes it even easier because now it's literally a game. Like it's you can go in and you got a second life type deal in that, and everybody's, and then the same thing with NFTs. Same thing. NFTs and metaverse have made this really blow up, and it drives the interest of course, younger and older. The older you're looking at the money that's being made from something digital, and they're like, okay, wait a second, how in the world did this kid just make 50 grand and only spend $1?
that's true.
Yeah,
And then
that was huge. It was huge. To add on to what you just said and to answer that question as well, the kids are definitely talking to each other.
Hmm.
Reason being, prime example, when we were at the academy and at the Youth Life Center, and these kids would have movie break or recess time or go to the pizza party, they would leave that area just to come to our room.
They left the pizza party for
They would
trading.
leave the pizza party in the movie area just to come. And what happened? It was with kids that haven't even migrated over to our room yet to learn this skill. So as soon as those kids were actually leaving us, they would go tell other kids what they were learning, what they were making, and then it was so many kids that we had to say, hey, you guys got to come to the next session. You got to come to the next session, and there were times when we were done with the session, the
Mm.
kids wanted to stay. They wanted to stay
yeah,
and do it again. They wanted to learn more. And what really got me is that when that session was over, when they came back the next week or the next day, they retained everything that was taught to them initially.
yeah.
A
So
week apart.
I'm sorry, a
A
week
week
apart.
apart.
A week apart. A
Wow.
week apart. These kids they were like, hey, can I go home and do this? Can I set this up at home and do this with my parents at home and show them how to do this? So it was a beautiful thing. So to answer your question, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that's amazing. The other thing I want to touch on is what sort of inspired you to work with kids. So, Claude, you were telling me before that you have children, and just getting into information and teaching it to them was really impactful. Can you touch on your children a bit?
Well, absolutely. What got me and my brother to really dive into this a little bit more is because we realized that we needed this growing up. We didn't have this. There wasn't a platform where there is like today, where a
Mm.
child can literally come in and learn the financial skills and to gain the financial literacy to start off a lot sooner in life. Because now you can have these kids who are at the age of 16 and a lot of them are starting to get their first jobs. But what we know is that a lot of them are spending that money on liabilities and not assets.
Yeah.
So once you can instill into them how to literally set themselves up for the future, so when they turn 18, because we know within certain communities, when you turn 18, they're telling them to go get these credit cards or they're going to college and now they're stuck in this cycle of debt. But
Yeah.
now you can teach them this skill where they don't have those problems. Now when they get these credit cards, if they choose to get these credit cards, they have the financial literacy and the understanding on how to really utilize this and leverage it. to attain assets. So that's the part for me right there.
How have your children been receiving this information so far since you?
So so I got a couple superstars. I got a couple superstars.
Oh, okay.
So my two boys, they're literally in it. We did a competition. My brother and I came up with an idea. Uh,
Men.
yeah, it came with an idea. My son, he was with me. My son called. He's like, "Hey, Dad, can you help me go half on this computer?" And then I was like, initially I was, but we talked about it, and it was about how about you learn how to trade, and you're able, if you come up with half the money, then I'll match you. But what happened
Oh,
was he learned the skill, he gained the income, and then he made enough where he can buy his own. So now that skill set is no longer where he has to ask dad. He knows how to get into that market and make it for himself now. That was the biggest thing.
wait a minute. Okay.
And then let's
Because
just say that computer had a comma and some zeros in it. Let's just say that it has a comma and some zeros.
that's amazing because I think that switch when it's clicked for him. And how old was he when he did that?
He was 12 at the time.
Oh my God. A 12-year-old got a, oh my God. Do y'all even hear what this man's saying right now? No, seriously, let's think about that. Because I can't even imagine as a parent, like the weight that y'all feel sometimes when they want things. And before you had access to a skill set like this, you're like, okay, let me budget, let me do this. Wait, the house needs this, the car needs this. And then you still want to foster like imagination and play and fun and fulfill. Like your child wants something. You're like, my child wants something. Yeah, I'm gonna go get it for him. But you counting the numbers, and then it's now you're teaching them a skill set where they can get those things themselves, and that financial burden isn't on you to have to provide everything. Man,
The
a
biggest thing with that
12-year-old.
mindset, the biggest thing with that mindset is it also creates financial independence to where they're not dependent on things. Because if you think about it, without that, that's the reason why young teenagers go out and get credit cards, because they want to be dependent on somebody else to give them the money as credit without coming out of their pocket, and then they end up in debt, and they don't understand that piece of the financial system. So this creates an independence financially to where if they're getting a credit card, or to be honest, where they're not even dependent on credit at all. Like they have the credit maybe just to, if they want to ever leverage something when it comes to using other people's money instead of their own money. But then that's an even deeper lesson.
Yeah.
Boy,
Other
you just
people.
gave some sauce right there. They not ready for that, bro.
That's why I had to stop.
I
That's
think,
why I had to stop.
bro, you just hit him with that one.
I had to stop. I was like, I can't go that direction.
I think that's phenomenal. I think that's what the whole game to this is. If we want to call it a game, it's instead of sticking with the rhetoric that we were taught in school, which is go out, get these random degrees. Some of them have more use than others, get into a lot of debt potentially, and be stuck in a cycle of debt until you die at 40, 40, 40. Work 40 years, 40 hours or more a week, and retire on 40% of your income. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I agree.
So it's
You know,
beautiful.
you say that, and a lot of people really don't even understand that last part that you just said.
Mm.
That retiring off 40% of that income that you couldn't survive off. My brother, he has the numbers for this, but that's a real good question. Let's really ask the people how many of them truly are out there working 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
So back in the day, it used to be you go work 40 years of your life, but what we're realizing that people are switching jobs every 5 years, every 5 to 10 years. Back in the day, we realized that these employers used to be loyal to us, right? But they're not. They're not now. They're letting people go left and right. They're hiring different people. They're hiring robots now to replace the humans. They're outsourcing to other countries right now to cut costs. And then to talk about that 40%, most of them won't even get that.
Right.
Because that's when it ties into the Social Security. And I'm not even gonna get into the Social Security.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm not even gonna get into that. But let's just say we know what goes into Social Security, And for the ones who don't know what goes into the Social Security, it's the baby boomers who were before us that were working that 40-40-40, paying into the system. But now you have to look at the economy, and what's really transpiring is that a lot of people are not retiring from certain jobs anymore. So they're not putting that money into that Social Security. So the question is, what are you going to do at that age when it's time for you to receive your Social Security if the money is not there?
And if y'all haven't checked out usdebtclock.org, watch that little ticker tape go up of how much debt's accruing. I don't want to get too technical, but I mean, there's different things that happen to increase inflation. Yes, Francine. Yes. So there's different things that happen, and inflation's going up. That means the value of money's going down. We got to figure something out, which I think all of us have run into a great solution. But if you don't have a game plan for what to do, it will behoove you to reach out to one of the three of us. Definitely, Stanford and Claude have phenomenal solutions for children, and it don't let it intimidate you. Just have conversations at first. Don't feel like you have to do something. Just talk to someone. The best thing that you can do is have a conversation about these sorts of subjects: money, retirement, education. That's the only way you can grow. That's the only way you can grow. Because if you keep doing the same thing you're doing, you know, my goodness.
Hmm.
I think this is such valuable information so that they can watch the replay. But what's one thing that you would both really like to hit home with people? Claude, you can go first. What's something you want to leave on people?
One thing I would like to leave to the people: don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of the unknown. Get familiar with knowing what the unknown is, because that's when you can literally make an educated decision about things you truly don't know about. So don't make a decision about something you don't know about. Seek and go get the understanding first to make your decision.
That's beautiful. How about you, Stanford? What's something that people really should know?
I get asked a lot, hey, is there a shortcut? My answer to that is always yes. The shortcut is a mentor. Find somebody who has what you want and do what they do. There's nothing special about anybody that has what you want, millionaires, billionaires, and so on and so forth. They just have a seed that you didn't know about, that they have, that they planted long time ago, and you're seeing the fruit of their labor. So find them, get the seed, plant it, and over time, with consistency and discipline, you'll get the same fruit, if not more.
I think that's perfect. I think that's a perfect nugget. For myself, if I had to leave some information on y'all, it's, I know y'all hear the phrase do your own research, but my own cautionary note about that is there's so much, but there are wonderful resources, wonderful places you can go to get information that's closer to the truth. If you want to plug in, if you need help figuring out what to do inside of this space, if you just have general questions or want to come to some informational sessions, we have those. So reach, our social medias are linked on the bottom. And if you're watching this Facebook Live, you have a direct way to reach out to me. But thank you for your time. Thank you for watching and participating. And thank you to both of you, wonderful men. And I'm looking forward to having many more conversations with both of you in the future. You're family men, you're God-driven men, and you love teaching children this very necessary information.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. See y'all later. The replay will be on my page and on my IG and on my Facebook. Bye.